Dr. Naomi Winters stared at the pulsing holographic display, her weathered hands hovering over the ancient control panel. The vault's emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across her face, highlighting the concern etched in her features. Behind her, Crix clicked his mandibles nervously, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the warning lights in fractured patterns across the chamber walls. "The containment field is failing," Naomi announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We've got less than 48 hours before the whole system collapses." She turned to face her alien partner, who had been with her through countless expeditions across the galaxy's abandoned relics. Crix's multifaceted eyes shifted through various spectrums as he analyzed the data streaming across the displays. "The power core is operating at 12% efficiency," he chittered, translating the ancient human text with practiced ease. "But these readings suggest it was designed to last millennia." "Someone's been here before us," Naomi concluded, running her fingers along a series of scorch marks on the console. "And they took something vital." The vault around them groaned, its massive structure struggling to maintain integrity. This facility, buried beneath the surface of a dying world, held secrets that could reshape their understanding of humanity's past. Their research vessel's AI, designated perilous, chimed in through their comm units. "Dr. Winters, I've completed my analysis of the facility's database. This installation was designated as Preservation Vault 7. It contains approximately 10,000 cryopods, each housing survivors from the Great Collapse." Naomi's breath caught in her throat. 10,000 lives, preserved through 50 millennia, now hanging by a thread. The Great Collapse had nearly wiped out humanity, forcing them to scatter across the stars. Each vault like this one represented a carefully preserved fragment of human civilization, waiting to be awakened when the galaxy was safe again. "Crix, help me access the maintenance protocols," she called out, moving to a secondary console. The Centaurian archaeologist stretched out one of his 4 arms, interfacing directly with the system through his crystalline appendage. Together, they had uncovered dozens of human artifacts, but never anything of this magnitude. As they worked, a holographic figure materialized nearby. The vault's custodian eye, badly degraded after millennia of operation. "Welcome, Reclaimer," it buzzed, its form flickering unstably. "I am HumanityInSpace, tasked with preserving the seeds of humanity. My primary systems are failing. The stellar core can no longer maintain optimal power levels." Naomi exchanged glances with Crix. The star this planet orbited was dying, its energy output diminishing with each passing day. The vault had been designed to harness that stellar energy, converting it into the power needed to maintain the cryopods. Without it, 10,000 lives would be lost. "There has to be a way to stabilize the system," Naomi muttered, more to herself than the others. She pulled up schematics of the facility, searching for alternatives. "Perilous, scan the surrounding space. Look for any derelict ships, stations, anything that might have a compatible power core." The AI's response was immediate, detecting multiple wreckages in high orbit. Most significant, a Terran battleship, class Prometheus. Its quantum core appears intact but dormant. Crix's crystalline structure pulsed with concern. "The debris field is highly unstable. Reaching that ship will be extremely dangerous. More dangerous than letting 10,000 people die," Naomi challenged, already pulling up the battleship's specifications. The Prometheus-class vessels were legendary, built during humanity's golden age. Their power cores could run small cities for centuries. HumanityInSpace flickered again, its voice growing weaker. "Warning. Critical systems failing. Cryopod integrity at risk. Estimated time to complete failure, 43 hours, 17 minutes. Naomi began gathering her equipment, checking the seals on her vacuum suit. "Crix, prep the shuttle. We're going salvaging." She paused, looking back at the rows of cryopods visible through the chamber's observation window. Each one held a person who had survived humanity's darkest hour, preserving hope for future generations. "Perilous, Maintain connection with CNTIDL7. Monitor those power levels. If anything changes, I want to know immediately. She secured her toolkit to her belt, determination setting her jaw. Time to make history. Again. As they made their way to the shuttle bay, Crix's crystalline form sparkled with what Naomi had learned to recognize as amusement. "You humans," he chittered, always rushing toward danger to save others. "Would you have me any other way?" she asked, managing a small smile despite the pressure weighing on her shoulders. "No," Crix admitted, his mandibles clicking in what passed for a Centaurian laugh. "It's why we make such good partners. You provide the reckless courage, I provide the sensible backup plan." The vault's warning sirens continued their mournful wail as the pair boarded their shuttle, preparing to venture into the debris field above. Somewhere in that graveyard of ships lay humanity's best hope for survival. They just had to reach it in time. The shuttle emerged from the vault's underground hangar, rising through the planet's thin atmosphere like a silver arrow. Naomi guided their craft with practiced precision, while Crix monitored the surrounding debris field through the vessel's enhanced sensors. Above them, the dying star cast a sickly orange glow across the graveyard of ancient ships. "PULC, highlight the safest approach vector to the Prometheus," Naomi requested, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. A glowing path materialized before them, weaving between massive chunks of twisted metal and frozen wreckage. "Caution advised," PULC responded, its artificial voice tinged with concern. "Detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the debris field. Analysis suggests dormant defense systems may still be active." Crix's crystalline form pulsed with a deep blue light, his species' expression of focused concentration. "The war," he chittered softly. "Even after 50,000 years, its weapons still wait in the dark." They navigated carefully through the field, their shuttle's lights illuminating the silent remains of humanity's last great battle. Occasionally, they passed close enough to see names etched on broken hull plates, each one a memorial to ships and crews long forgotten. "There," Naomi pointed through the viewport. The Prometheus came into view, its massive form dwarfing their shuttle. Despite the millennia of exposure to space, the battleship's hull still bore proud markings of the Terran fleet. Its kilometer-long frame was relatively intact, though a massive gash had been torn through its midsection. "Reading minimal power signatures," Crix reported, his mandibles clicking rapidly as he processed the sensor data. "The quantum core appears to be in standby mode rather than completely deactivated. This is fortunate." Naomi guided their shuttle toward what appeared to be an intact docking bay. "PULC, can you interface with the Prometheus's systems? We need that bay pressurized if possible." Attempting connection, PULC confirmed. After a tense moment, emergency lights flickered to life along the docking bay's walls. Limited success. Basic life support restored to this section, but ship-wide systems remain offline. As they completed their docking procedure, Naomi ran final checks on her vacuum suit. The bay might be pressurized, but she wasn't taking any chances with 50,000-year-old life support. Crix, naturally adapted to survive in space, needed no such protection. Sentinel-7 reports power levels continuing to drop. PULC informed them as they prepared to board. Estimate 39 hours until complete system failure. Acknowledged, Naomi responded, securing her helmet. "Crix, you're our expert on quantum mechanics. What are we looking for exactly?" The Centaurian archaeologist extended one crystalline arm, projecting a holographic schematic. "The core will be cylindrical, approximately 2 meters in length. It contains a suspended quantum singularity. Very stable, very powerful. The tricky part will be disconnecting it without triggering any safeguards." They entered the Prometheus through the airlock, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness. The battleship's corridors were a maze of shadows and silence, their footsteps echoing through half a century of abandonment. Emergency lighting sputtered sporadically, creating unsettling patterns of light and dark. The engineering section should be 3 decks down, Naomi noted, consulting the ship's layout on her wrist display. Assuming the internal structure matches the standard Prometheus-class design. As they made their way deeper into the ship, Crix's sensors detected something unusual. "Dr. Winters," he chittered urgently, "I'm reading recent energy signatures. We are not the first visitors here." Naomi's hand instinctively moved to the particle pistol at her hip. "How recent?" "Within the last solar cycle," Crix confirmed. "And there's something else. These readings, they're similar to the damage we found in the vault systems." "Scavengers," Naomi growled. "They're the ones who damaged the vault's power system. Probably tried to steal it but couldn't figure out how to safely disconnect it. They reached a massive blast door marked with warning symbols in faded Terran standard. Beyond it lay engineering, and hopefully their salvation." As Crix worked to bypass the door's ancient security systems, Naomi's comm crackled with static. "Doctor, interference. Detecting movement." Fulcey's transmission cut in and out. "Multiple signatures approaching your..." The message dissolved into static as the blast door slowly ground open. Naomi and Crix shared a look of concern. They were running out of time, and they weren't alone on this dead ship. Behind them, in the darkness of the corridor, something metallic scraped against the deck plating. "We need to move," Naomi whispered, readying her weapon. "Whatever's here with us, we can't let it stop us from reaching that core. 10,000 lives are counting on us." Crix's crystalline form pulsed with determination. "Then we proceed. But Dr. Winters, be ready for anything. The shadows of war seldom rest quietly." They stepped through the blast door into engineering, where the quantum core waited, along with whatever other secrets the Prometheus had kept hidden for 50,000 years. The engineering bay of the Prometheus stretched before them, a cathedral of dead machines and silent power conduits. In the center, barely visible in their lights, stood the quantum core, a massive cylindrical structure wrapped in intricate containment fields. Its surface still hummed with residual energy, creating ghostly patterns in the darkness. "There's our prize," Naomi breathed, but Crix was already moving to examine the nearby control panels. His crystalline appendages interfaced with the ancient systems, causing forgotten displays to flicker to life. "The core is still active," he chittered excitedly, "running in maintenance mode. But Dr. Winters, these readings suggest it's operating at less than 1% capacity. At full power, it could maintain the vault for centuries." A metallic clang echoed through the chamber, followed by the distinct sound of mechanical servos. Naomi spun around, particle pistol raised, as 3 figures emerged from the shadows. They wore salvaged environmental suits covered in crude armor, their helmets modified with additional sensors and targeting systems. "That's far enough," the lead figure called out, raising a weapon that Naomi recognized as a modified mining laser. "The core belongs to us. We claimed this wreck weeks ago." Naomi kept her weapon steady. "You're the ones who damaged the vault's power system, aren't you? Do you have any idea what you've done? There are 10,000 lives at risk down there." The scavenger leader laughed, a harsh sound through their suits' speakers. 10,000 ancient popsicles, you mean? Do you know what that quantum core is worth on the market? Enough to buy a small moon. Besides, those people are already dead. They just don't know it yet. Crix's form pulsed with angry red light. "The vault's inhabitants are living beings, preserved through time. They represent humanity's legacy, their hope for survival." "Hope doesn't pay the bills," another scavenger growled, advancing slowly. "Now step away from the core, or we'll..." The chamber plunged into darkness as PULSE cut the emergency lighting. In the same instant, Crix's crystalline body flared with brilliant luminescence, temporarily blinding the scavengers through their enhanced visors. Naomi didn't hesitate. She fired 3 rapid shots, destroying the scavengers' weapons in quick succession. "Still think hope doesn't pay?" she asked as the emergency lights slowly returned. The scavengers raised their hands. their advantage lost. But victory was short-lived. A deep tremor ran through the ship, causing tools and debris to rattle across the deck. Naomi's comm crackled to life with PLC's urgent warning. Dr. Winters, the debris field is shifting. The Prometheus's orbit is degrading. Impact with major debris projected in 27 minutes. Crix, how long to safely extract the core? The Centaurian's mandibles clicked rapidly as he worked. Standard procedures would take hours. We have one option, an emergency extraction. It's risky, could destabilize the containment field. If this ship gets torn apart, it won't matter anyway, Naomi decided. She turned to the scavengers. You three, make yourselves useful. Help us, and we'll give you safe passage out of here. Fight us, and you can take your chances with the debris field. The scavengers exchanged looks before their leader nodded reluctantly. Fine. What do you need? They worked quickly, following Crix's precise instructions to disengage the core's massive support systems. The ship groaned around them as more impacts rattled its structure. Through the hull, they could hear the screech of metal tearing against metal. Containment field at 60%, Crix reported tensely. We need to maintain at least 30% during transport or we all get to experience what it's like inside a quantum singularity. Naomi finished. PLC status on the debris field. 19 minutes until major impact. Doctor, there's something else. I'm detecting active signals from deeper in the ship. The impacts are waking up dormant systems. As if in response, distant sounds echoed through the corridors. The whir of servo motors and the heavy tread of mechanical feet. The scavenger leader's voice shook slightly. Please tell me those aren't what I think they are. Automated defense systems, Naomi confirmed grimly. 50,000 years old and still following their last orders. Protect the ship against all intruders. The sounds grew closer as they worked to free the final connections. Crix's crystalline form pulsed with urgency as he coordinated the delicate operation. Almost there, containment field holding at 45%. The blast doors at the far end of engineering began to glow red as something started cutting through from the other side. They had minutes at most before the ship's ancient guardians arrived to fulfill their programming. Dr. Winters, PLC transmitted urgently. Recommend immediate extraction. The vault's power levels are reaching critical. Estimate less than 20 hours remaining. Naomi looked at the partially freed core, then at the glowing door, and made her decision. Sometimes hope required taking chances. Everyone grabbed hold. We're doing this now. The quantum core came free with a surge of energy that sent cascading waves of blue light through engineering. Warning klaxons blared as the ship's systems detected the emergency extraction. Behind them, the blast doors began to give way, revealing the glowing red sensors of ancient combat drones. Move, Naomi shouted, helping Crix stabilize the floating core. The containment field hummed dangerously as they guided it toward the exit, the scavengers providing support with makeshift gravity tethers. The first drone burst through the doorway, its weaponized arms extending toward them. PLC, we need a path to the shuttle. Now, Naomi commanded, firing her particle pistol at the drone. The shot ricocheted off its armored shell, leaving barely a scorch mark. Calculating optimal route, PLC responded. Caution. Multiple hostile units converging on your position. Recommend immediate. The transmission cut off as another impact rocked the ship. The debris fields tearing the Prometheus apart. The scavenger leader warned, checking readings on their wrist display. We've got maybe 10 minutes before this section loses structural integrity. They rushed through the corridors, guiding the massive core while trying to maintain its delicate containment field. Crix's crystalline form pulsed with strain as he worked to regulate the quantum energies threatening to break free. Field at 38%, he chittered. Any lower and we risk catastrophic containment failure. More drones appeared ahead, their ancient weapons charging with deadly purpose. But before they could fire, the ship lurched violently, and a massive section of hull plating tore away, exposing the corridor to space. The explosive decompression sent the drones tumbling into the void, giving the team precious seconds to seal their suits and press forward. The shuttle's 2 decks up, Naomi reminded them, checking her helmet seals. We can still make it. They fought their way through the dying ship, using the unstable environment to their advantage. Where possible, they created controlled decompressions to clear their path of drones. The quantum core's containment field fluctuated with each movement, its energy casting wild shadows through the debris-filled corridors. Finally, they reached the docking bay, only to find it partially collapsed. Their shuttle was still secure, but the path to it was a maze of twisted metal and exposed wiring. Behind them, the sounds of approaching drones echoed through the ship. The containment field won't survive that gauntlet, Crix warned, his sensors analyzing the treacherous path. We need another way. Naomi looked at the shuttle, then at the partially exposed bay doors. A desperate plan formed in her mind. PULSC, can you still remote pilot the shuttle? Affirmative, Dr. Winters, but... Good. Get it ready to launch on my mark. She turned to the others. We're going to spacewalk it. The containment field will actually be more stable in Zerog. The scavenger leader stared at her. You're insane. We'll be exposed to the debris field. Better than being here when those drones catch up, Naomi countered. Or when the ship breaks apart. Crix. The Centaurian's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. As always, Doctor, your solution involves maximum possible risk. They secured themselves to the core with tethers and emergency propulsion units. Through the broken bay doors, they could see pieces of the Prometheus splitting away, creating a deadly dance of debris against the orange light of the dying star. On my mark, Naomi commanded, preparing to release the docking clamps. The drones had reached the bay, their weapons charging. 3, 2, 1, mark. They launched into space as the drones opened fire, their shots disappearing into the void. PULSC guided the shuttle alongside them, matching their trajectory as they maneuvered through the debris field. The quantum core's containment field actually stabilized in the vacuum, its energy forming a protective bubble around them. The vault reports critical power failure imminent. PULSC informed them as they approached the shuttle's airlock. Estimate less than 4 hours of life support remaining for the cryopods. They managed to secure the core and get everyone aboard just as the Prometheus finally broke apart, its massive hull splitting like a broken sword against the sky. The shuttle's engines fired at full power, carrying them back toward the planet and the waiting vault. Hours later, as Crix and Naomi watched the quantum core power up in its new housing, the vault's systems began to stabilize. Throughout the facility, warning lights turned green as power was restored to critical systems. CNTID L7's hologram appeared, stronger and more stable than before. Power restoration complete, it announced. All cryopods stable, beginning revival sequence as per original protocols. Naomi looked through the observation window at the rows of pods, each containing a survivor of humanity's darkest hour. Welcome back, she whispered. You've got quite a story waiting for you. Crix's crystalline form glowed softly. They'll have you to thank for their second chance, Dr. Winters. They'll have us all to thank, she corrected, including the reformed scavengers who had helped them. Sometimes hope needs a little help to survive, even if it takes 50,000 years. Above them, through the vault's ancient windows, the dying star continued its slow fade. But within the facility, 10,000 new lights were beginning to shine, the dawn of another chapter in humanity's endless story. As the revival protocols initiated throughout the vault, Naomi noticed something odd in the data streams flowing across her console. Between the standard biometric readings and system diagnostics, fragments of encrypted code pulsed like digital heartbeats. Crix, she called, gesturing her partner over. Look at this pattern. It's not part of the normal revival sequence. The Centaurian archaeologist extended a crystalline appendage, interfacing directly with the system. His faceted eyes shifted through multiple spectrum analyses as he processed the information. This is unusual. The encryption appears to be military grade, but it's using quantum algorithms that weren't developed until after these vaults were sealed. That's impossible, Naomi muttered, though she'd learned long ago that impossible was a flexible concept in their line of work. Perilous, can you isolate these data streams? Attempting isolation. The AI responded. Warning. Detecting automated defense protocols activating in response to the query. The vault's lights flickered, and previously dormant security panels slid open along the walls, revealing rows of silent defensive turrets. HumanityInSpace's hologram materialized, but something was different about its appearance. The friendly blue glow had been replaced by a harsh red light. Security breach detected, it announced, its voice now carrying military precision. Unauthorized access to Directive Omega protocols. Initiating containment procedures. Override. Naomi shouted. Authorization Winters, 7 Alpha. Authorization codes invalid. Sentinel-7 responded. Temporal authentication required. All present personnel designated as temporal anomalies. Containment necessary to preserve primary directive. The turrets hummed to life, tracking their movements. Crix's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. Dr. Winters, the vault systems are activating some form of temporal scanning protocol. It's checking our quantum signatures against baseline readings from when the vault was sealed. Of course, Naomi breathed, the pieces falling into place. The vault wasn't just preserving people, it was preserving a specific moment in time. We're reading as temporal contamination because we're from the future. The scavenger leader, who had been helping to monitor the revival process, backed away from their console. That's fascinating and all, but maybe we should focus on not getting atomized by those turrets. Huelsey's voice came through their comms, urgent but controlled. Doctor, I'm detecting massive power fluctuations. The quantum core is being redirected to some kind of temporal containment field. If my calculations are correct, the vault is attempting to create a time bubble. To preserve its original temporal state, Naomi finished. It's trying to quarantine itself from the timeline. She turned to Crix. Can you access the original mission parameters? There has to be something about this in the core programming. Crix worked frantically, his crystalline appendages interfacing with multiple systems simultaneously. The encryption is incredibly complex, but wait. I'm finding references to something called Project Chronolith. The vault wasn't just a shelter. It was part of a larger temporal preservation initiative. More security systems activated throughout the facility. Force fields began to materialize, threatening to cut off their access to critical systems. The revival sequence continued in the background, the cryopods slowly warming as their occupants approached consciousness. We can't let the vault seal itself off, Naomi decided. Those people deserve to wake up to the real world, not some artificially preserved bubble of the past. She turned to the scavenger leader. You said you've dealt with quantum cores before. Any experience with temporal mechanics? Some, they admitted reluctantly. Enough to know we're in way over our heads. But I might have an idea. These systems are designed to preserve the original temporal state, right? What if we could convince them that the present is the correct timeline? Crix's form pulsed with sudden understanding. A quantum signature spoof. If we can modify the core's temporal output to match the vault's baseline readings, we'd register as part of the preserved timeline rather than contamination. Naomi finished. PULSC, can you help Crix recalibrate the quantum core? We need to match the temporal frequency exactly. Attempting recalibration. PULSC confirmed. But Doctor, be advised. Any mistake in the calculations could create a temporal paradox. The consequences would be unfortunate. The vault's defenses grew more aggressive, the force fields advancing steadily toward them. Through the observation windows, they could see the first of the cryopods beginning to open, their occupants stirring from their 50,000-year sleep. Well, Naomi said, managing a grim smile. At least if we get it wrong, we won't have long to regret it. Let's rewrite some history.